In the past, large cities had populations of 200,000 people. In the 20th century, due to advancements in all aspects of life, allowed for cities to allow for their populations to grow into the millions of inhabitants that they could have. A large factor in all of this was industrialization, as it allowed for quicker transportation and trade, and allowed for cities to advance in the ability to hold people and the stability of the buildings.
In the beginning of 1895, the first motion picture was projected in Paris by Louis Lumiere and Auguste, which the idea of moving images appealed to everybody. Then photography became very common throughout the world, seen in newspapers, magazines, and advertisements. This greatly increased how information got around, and better yet, radios came into play and were mostly used for ships and military purposes, but after the war were used all around in families by 1930.
Industrialization continued to make cities improve the living conditions and the ability for people to be able to transport. When Le Corbusier brought the new ideas for architecture that created a new style called International Style, this style was then used to develop new types of buildings like skyscrapers. Another advancement was in automobiles, for automobiles were now being produced at a quicker rate, which allowed for more people to afford them, and this allowed for people to travel from place to place at an improved pace.
In 1903, the Wright brothers had built the first aircraft. In 1920, the plane took off with 440 passengers and 22 tons of cargo, and this dramatically changed the way of transformations of both people and goods.
The 1920s brought independence to India thanks to the British, who admitted more Indians into the civil service and the officer corps. Industrialization in India didn't give as many jobs for people, but it helped with the creation of the wealthy class of businessmen. This class supported the Indian National Congress's demand for its independence. After World War II, the British offered India independence, and Gandhi demanded that independence was full. World War II was a major cause of India's division. Riots between Hindus and Muslims broke out as independence came closer. The Indian National Congress divided India into two states, one ruled by Hindus and the other ruled by Muslims. Independence in India caused violent outbreaks between Muslims and Hindus once again. After this massacre, Muslims were a minority in all but one state of India, Kashmir. Kashmir was later annexed, and this soon led to India and Pakistan to become enemies and fight in several wars. The 1920s led to the end of wartime job opportunities for women. While many women still stayed in the workforce, others had lost their jobs. Most women took advantage of no work and enjoyed their freedom. They played more sports, drove cars, smoked in public, and traveled on their own. The end of the war caused many women to live lives of loneliness. The 1920s also led to women's suffrage movements. Women in the U.S. soon got their right to vote due to the 19th Amendment in the U.S. Constitution. Along with women's suffrage movements, women also participated in social reform movements to prevent mistreatment of women and children and of industrial workers. Jane Addams and Margaret Sanger, two social activists, helped increase the rights of women during this time, especially with social reforms and campaigns about birth control.
Christianity was introduced in Africa by Western missionaries, and it was very successful in the West and South Africa, where the European influence was the strongest. Many Africans accepted Christianity enthusiastically, reading and suffering of their own peoples into the biblical stories of Moses and the parables of Jesus.